Hey guys, I might start something controversial today by giving you some not so good news. In my opinion, what you've been eating for breakfast is probably not what you thought it was. The food industry has lied to us and marketed things as healthy that are definitely not healthy, and we've all been lied to. So I'm going to help you understand why you've been lied to and how we can protect ourselves and protect our family. And I've got some props to show you different things. To introduce myself, I'm Dr. Philip Oob. I'm a functional medicine doctor here in Austin, Texas, and my practice is called Oob Medical. And I'm going to talk to you about breakfast and which foods are bad. This video is not really designed to be which foods to eat as much as it's more going to be what foods you're probably eating and most Americans eat every morning, thinking they're starting their morning off right and doing the right thing, and actually they're kind of sabotaging their body and sabotaging their day. So I've talked previously about eating more fat, eating less carbs, and riding that insulin roller coaster that contributes to carb addiction, sugar addiction, that we've all kind of struggled with at some point in our life, at least most of us, I should say, if you're an American. And I'm going to help you understand which breakfast foods are contributing to that. So the first one I'm going to bring up is yogurt. These used to be one of my favorite things to start the morning off with. These Chobani Greek yogurts with 0% fat or 2% fat, and these things were the greatest things since sliced bread when they came out. They're delicious, they are great, and they're marketed as health food because they don't have any fat in them, and that's so great. Well, if you've watched any of my videos and heard any of my talks and read Dr. Hyman, anything like that, you know that fat is not the devil, and that fat is actually one of our solutions and the way to lose weight and be healthier. So let's just read some ingredients on this Chobani yogurt. Actually, before we do that, let's talk a little bit about probiotics in yogurt. Americans have been told that to get probiotics, you eat yogurt. That's the only way to get probiotics, yogurt. Probiotics are in all fermented foods. So yes, yogurt does have probiotics, and that's great, but probiotics aren't going to do a ton of good if you're just consuming them in sugar. So there are other ways to get probiotics, pickles and sauerkraut and kombucha and other ways that are much lower in sugar and much healthier to get probiotics. And also dirty vegetables. If you grow your own garden, you just lightly rinse them off and you can eat them. That's how we used to get our probiotics as Paleolithic ancestors, is we ate dirty fruits and vegetables, and that's where we got our probiotics. Nowadays, if you're getting your fruits and vegetables from the store, there's no telling what contamination could be there, so it's not really a good idea to eat those dirty. But back to the Chobani yogurt, this 0% peach flavored Chobani yogurt. And let's just read the label. Let's dissect it a little bit. And we're gonna do this for each food. So there's 120 calories. Ignore the calories. I don't care about calories right now. Mainly you're looking at what you're triggering in your hormone and biochemistry by the foods you eat. So how much fat is it? 0 grams of fat. This has no fat whatsoever in it. So the satiety factor, as far as how full you're gonna feel after you finish eating this, none, 0. Sugar does not really satiate us. That's why you can drink a Route 44 Coca-Cola or ocean water from Sonic and not feel any fuller. You can still eat a Big Mac right after that. Sugar creates more hunger. So no fat, no satiety. You're gonna be hungry after you're done eating this. The second macronutrient, we have 3 macronutrients, right? Sugar, fat, and protein. So the first macronutrient's fat, 0 satiety. Protein, it's got 12 grams of protein. That's pretty cool. Protein's pretty good. I always like to warn you that too much protein turns into carbs, and carbs stimulate insulin, and you're riding the carb insulin roller coaster again. So 12 grams of protein, that's certainly not a bad thing. That's a good thing. But look at this. Total carbohydrates, 18 grams. Do you know how much sugar or how many carbs are in a can of Coke? A 12-ounce can of Coke has about 38 grams of carbs, which is basically plain sugar. And this has 18 grams, and it's not even as big as a can of Coke. So this basically has the same amount of sugar as a can of Coke. Think about that for a second. Now it's got the protein, great. Coke doesn't have protein, but you're not really in a winning situation there. Now, if you've been really lied by the food industry, you would look at just the sugars, and the sugars are going to say 14 grams. So you're like, oh, it's only got 14 grams of sugar. No. What are the other carbs? If you look at fiber, it has 0 grams of fiber. So yes, you have probiotics, but 0 prebiotics. Our bacteria live off of our dietary fiber. This has 0 dietary fiber. So yeah, it's got probiotics, but it doesn't have any prebiotics. So those probiotics may not even do anything. And it's got 18 grams of carbs, but 14 grams of sugar. Well, what are the other 4 grams of carbs? Who knows? Who cares? Carbs are sugar. So this has 18 grams of sugar, not 14 grams of sugar. It has 14 grams of added sugar. but 18 grams of total sugar. As far as your body's concerned, carbs are sugar, so 18 grams of sugar. So basically, you could either drink half a can of Coke or eat this yogurt, and you'd basically be in the same place, except you'd have a little protein if you ate the yogurt. So yogurt, not a great way to start the morning, especially not the Greek ones since they have no fat. Now, if you're gonna eat this, then at least add some fat into your breakfast. I'm not gonna say that these are evil, but pretty close to evil. So if you're gonna eat this for breakfast, then you better be adding some butter or coconut oil to your coffee or tea or whatever you're drinking in the morning, or just take a raw spoonful of it and eat it, because you need fat in order to make this sugar have a slower rise, although this is mostly sugar, so it won't slow it down that much. But it will actually satiate your brain and make you last a little longer. So not a great way to start the morning with the Greek yogurt. The next thing I'm gonna bring up, that how many times have we run out the door grabbing a granola bar? I used to live on these in med school, these Nature Valley oats and honey. They're delicious. They're delicious for a reason, because they're loaded with sugar. So let's dissect this label a little bit so that you can understand it a little more. So total calories, 190 calories. Okay, not too bad. That's a decent way to start the morning. Total fat, 7 grams of fat. Not too bad. It's got some fat. 1 gram of saturated fat. So if you're really evil against saturated fat, you're thinking, okay, this is a pretty good product. It's rather low in fat, and it has almost 0 saturated fat. Now, I will tell you that saturated fat is not the devil that everyone's made out to be. Your body makes saturated fat. So if you're not eating it, your body's gonna make it. And you know what? Saturated fat tastes pretty good. So you might as well eat some of it, because your body's gonna make it if you don't. And it's got 0 grams of trans fat, which you should never eat a trans fat. There's no reason to eat trans fats. There's human made, and that is the only truly really bad fat. And then 0 grams of cholesterol. How awesome is that? Well, guess what? Your body's gonna make the cholesterol anyway, so it doesn't matter if you consume the cholesterol. Step 2, 3 grams of protein. So now we're up to 10 grams total. 3 grams of protein, 7 grams of fat. Not much protein, but you really wouldn't expect much protein in oats and things, so not too surprising there. This is not gonna be your protein source if you're going through your day, you know that. Now, let's really get down to the carbs, because you know that's where I get heated. So total carbohydrates, 29 grams. 29 grams. This had 18 grams. So this little guy already has more carbohydrates than the yogurt, but maybe some of those carbohydrates are fiber. Let's read on. No, 2 grams of dietary fiber. So really not much fiber in this. You would think oats, oh, they're so healthy, they should be loaded in fiber, right? Nope, most of the fiber has either been stripped or just not really used. So 29 grams of carbs, 2 grams of fiber. So remember, if you've seen my other videos, you always subtract the fiber from carbohydrate. That's kind of a lie in the food industry, that fiber is not really a carb. It is technically in the biochemistry world, but humans do not use fibers as calories. Fiber feeds our gut bacteria, which is really healthy. So we want as much fiber in our diet as we can get. The typical thing we want to aim for is up to 50 grams of fiber a day. Man, it's hard to hit 50 grams. I normally tell people, try to at least get 25 grams, and then you can work your way up to 50 grams. And the percentage you want to aim for is about 60% soluble, 40% insoluble. I won't go into detail right now. So 29 grams of total carbohydrates minus 2 grams of dietary fiber. That means that this has 27 grams of sugar. Now, it's technically 27 grams of carbohydrates, but it's 27 grams of carbohydrates, which equals sugar. Carbs equals sugar to your body. But if you've been lied to by the food industry, you're gonna look down and say, oh, sugar's 11 grams. It's only got 11 grams of sugar. No, you've been lied to. They added 11 grams of sugar in the form of honey to make this gluey. The honey helps hold the oats and stuff pushed together. So this has 11 grams of added sugar in it, and it's usually in the form of honey to hold this together. So this is not 11 grams of sugar. This is 27 grams of sugar. So let's run that math again. 29 grams of carbs minus 2 grams of fiber equals 27 grams of sugar. And it's got 11 grams of added sugar, which is included in that 27 grams. So this is primarily 27 grams of sugar, 3 grams of protein, and 7 grams of fat. So if you're doing just based off of the percentage basis, that I'm just rough calculation, that's like 85% sugar and 20% of the other materials, fat being not enough. So this is basically another insulin roller coaster that's going to stimulate your blood sugar, stimulate your insulin rise and fall, and you're going to be hungry pretty soon after this, craving more carbs. So probably not a good way to start your day, unless you're adding fat. Once again, add coconut oil or butter or something to your coffee to get more fat in there. Oatmeal. This is another classic one that we've been told is such a healthy food. It's loaded with nutrients and all this great stuff. Oats are a great way to start our day. So let's just read some of the details about these to see how awesome they are. So I'm going to choose the maple and brown sugar one. You're going to guess that that's going to be their worst one, probably because they even claim it's got brown sugar in it. So total calories for one packet of oatmeal, and let's be honest, how many adults just eat one packet? Probably going to eat 2 packets, but we'll talk about one packet. So one packet has 160 calories. Doesn't sound too bad, right? But let's break it down. So 2 grams of fat. Not much fat at all. Once again, it's going to be mega sugar because it doesn't have any fat. And it's got 160 calories, so where are all the calories coming from? So only 0.5 grams of saturated fat. Well, like I told you before, might as well eat the saturated fat. It does have a little poly and mono unsaturated fat, MUFAs and PUFAs. Those are good, but that's barely anything to even talk about. 0 milligrams of cholesterol, which we all think is awesome, but like I told you before, your body's going to make the cholesterol, so who cares if you eat it? And then the next step is protein. 4 grams of protein. So not really a heavy source of protein. Remember our Greek yogurt had 12 grams of protein. So 2 grams of fat, 4 grams of protein, not talking about a lot of calories right now, but look at that whopping amount of carbohydrates. 32 grams of carbohydrates. Remember when I told you about a Coca-Cola? A Coca-Cola has 38 grams of carbs in a can of 12-ounce Coke. This is one packet, 32 grams. So if you were to eat 2 packets of these, which I've done in the past, 64 grams of carbs. You might as well drink a soda and then chew some nuts and you've eaten the same thing. Now, technically, I'm being a little over dramatic. These carbs are not as bad as Coca-Cola because that's fructose and that has a different pathway. But still, this is going to cause a sugar spike and an insulin spike, and then you're going to be hungry again. So maybe some of these carbs is in fiber. So let's read on. 32 grams of carbohydrates, 3 grams of fiber. Okay, this is our highest fiber item thus far. 3 grams. You're really on a great track to get to 50 grams by the end of your day if you've eaten these items, right? So I jest, that was clearly sarcasm. And then it's only got 1 gram of soluble fiber. Remember I told you earlier you want 60% soluble fiber. So the soluble fiber is the true prebiotic food. The insoluble fiber is basically like a bristle brush that goes through your colon, kind of scrubbing the walls, which you do need some of, but soluble fiber is the main thing we want. So only 1 gram of soluble fiber, still a long ways away. And then it's got 12 grams of sugar added to it. So you would think that if you look at this, that it's just 12 grams of sugar, but that's what the food industry wants you to believe. But really it's 32 grams of sugar minus 3 grams of fiber. So that's 29 grams of sugar inside 1 packet of oatmeal. So not a great way to start your breakfast or your day. So if we're doing a little bit of math based on some percentages, 29 grams of carbs, which is sugar, 4 grams of protein, and 2 grams of fat. This is pretty much 90-95% sugar. And guess what? It tastes good because it's sugar. The other problem with these types of oatmeals that are not steel cut or organic or whatever is that this is very powderized oatmeal, which means that's why you can microwave and eat it in a few minutes and it soaks up the water so quickly, is because it's cut and chopped and they add flour to it. They add wheat to it because wheat is delicious and powderized refined wheat tastes awesome. And so that's why the carb content is so high, because it's got flour and sugar added to it in order for it to taste better and microwave really quickly. So oatmeal, once again, not another good way to start your breakfast. Sorry to bust any bubbles that you've been under. Next, I don't have the box for this, so I went online and printed it, and wow, what a shocker this was. This is kind of Cheerios' new thing that I've seen. It's called Cheerios with ancient grains. I think they're kind of playing off this whole paleo thing that's getting popular. I love paleo. And so Cheerios and ancient grains, that sounds very paleo, right? And look at what they're claiming. Oh my gosh, it's got 12 vitamins and minerals. Okay, food's supposed to have vitamins and minerals, folks. 12 of them? Okay, I guess. It's low fat. Hate low fat. You guys know that already. It's got 17 grams of whole grains per serving. Wow, that's awesome. That's what our U.S. government wants us to believe, is that whole grains is the way to live forever. Let me tell you, you don't need any grains. You will be fine without grains. That is a food industry lie. And then this comment has 2 asterisks. May reduce risk of heart disease. And if you read in the comments, they're saying that because they're saying a low-fat diet may reduce your risk of heart disease. but that's why we're in the diabetic conundrum that we're in, is because so many people are eating low fat. So no, that statement is probably false. Low fat does not lead to reduced heart disease because it raises your blood sugar, and diabetes is the leading cause of heart attacks, strokes, and Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is now kind of being termed diabetes type 3, which you may not have heard of yet. But that's for another day. So let's go on reading some food labels, and I'll help you try to understand how these food labels make sense. So we're talking about Cheerios and ancient grains. If you tried these are not gluten-free. Cheerios got on board with the gluten-free thing. Their regular Cheerios are now gluten-free, which is kind of cool. I'm still not going to say they're healthy. It's carbs. And I think I shared Mark Hyman's post about just because it's gluten-free muffin doesn't mean it's a healthy muffin. So these are not gluten-free because it does have wheat added to it. And so let's read the food label. So total calories, 110 calories. Now this is without the milk if you're just eating it dry. And so 110 calories without milk. Total fat, 2 grams. They're right, it is a low fat food. That's fantastic. Saturated fat is 0.5 grams. Okay, no big deal there. Trans fat, 0 grams. It better be 0 grams. Polyunsaturated and monounsaturated fats, which are considered healthier fats, is 0.5 grams each. That's MUFAs and PUFAs. Still very low. Not even anything to talk about. I'm surprised it's even on the food label. 0 cholesterol. Once again, your body's going to make the cholesterol, so who cares if you eat it? Protein, 3 grams of protein. Once again, we're not talking heavy amounts of calories from fat and protein. A total of 5 grams that are not carbs going towards those calories. And our total carbohydrate on this meal is 22 grams per serving. Wow, yet another high carb meal, but maybe it's in fiber, so let's read on. Dietary fiber, 2 grams. So if we're aiming for 50 grams of fiber, we're not getting, you're gonna have to eat 25 servings to get there, and you'd be diabetic by that point. So 22 grams of total carbs minus 2 grams of fiber equals 20 grams of sugar. So this is 20 grams of sugar. Now, if you've been lied to by the food industry, you're going to look down and say 5 grams of sugar. Oh, there's only 5 grams of sugar. So that means they only sprinkled 5 grams of honey on the top and called it honey. Well, I guess they're not advertising. Oh, lightly sweetened oat and ancient grain cereal. So they're not claiming honey as a healthy one on here. So it's got some sort of sugar drizzled on it to make it delicious and tasty. They use 5 grams, but the remainder of the carbs are in the oats and everything else that's actually in the cereal is 20 grams of sugar. Yes, they only added 5 grams of sugar. And then here they're saying other carbohydrates, 14 grams. So let's do a little bit of math. 14 plus 5 plus 2, that's 19 plus 2, 21 grams. So they're actually talking about 21 grams of carbs, and then there's 22 on the label. So where's that mysterious 1 gram of carb coming from? I don't know. But the take-home message is 22 grams of carbs minus 2 grams of fiber equals 20 grams of carbs, 20 grams of sugar. 20 grams of sugar, 3 grams of protein, 2 grams of fat, 90% carbs, 90% sugar. Guess what? You're riding the insulin roller coaster, you're riding the sugar roller coaster on cereals. Now, Cheerios is one of the healthier cereals, so you can imagine that Cap'n Crunch and Cinnamon Toast Crunch and Apple Jacks and Lucky Charms, all those things that I've never eaten in my life. That's a lie. I grew up on those. They're delicious. They're terrible though. Stop eating them. They're majority carbs. There's no protein and fat. There's very little nutrients to it. On a sidebar, and I don't want to claim to understand this story fully, but I believe it was in the 80s that cereals were actually outlawed and not allowed to be produced. And the main reason why is because they're basically empty calories. They don't have any nutrients or vitamins. I shouldn't say any, that's a powerful word. They have very little vitamins and nutrients to it. And the problem was that people were consuming these and they were making you somewhat satiated, and you'd go about your day, but they had so little vitamins and nutrients that they were removed from the market. It wasn't until the food industry began fortifying, sorry, I use a lot of air quotes, the food industry began fortifying cereals with the vitamins and nutrients that you need to not get rickets and other vitamin deficiencies, beriberi, scurvy, all that stuff. It wasn't until they started fortifying the cereals that they were allowed back into the market. But that should tell you something. These cereals don't have the nutrients naturally in them to keep you alive and sustain you, and the only way they can be used is if they're fortified with vitamins and minerals. That's a little scary, folks. You should not be waking up and eating this every day. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I feed Cheerios to my kids every now and then. I try to limit it as much as possible. I'm not afraid to eat cereal, but this should not be the staple of your diet. I know a lot of people that eat cereal as a dessert. There's a reason you eat it as a dessert. It's delicious, it's mostly sugar. So, that's my bandwagon for today against carbs. Once again, harping on carbs, trying to increase your fat intake and increasing the protein intake if you're eating this stuff. So for your breakfast, try to focus on getting a little bit more fat, a little bit more protein, and trying to drop those carbs, because the more you drop the carbs, the more your carb cravings go away, the better you feel, the less inflamed you feel, the less fat you have, the less risk of diabetes, heart disease, stroke, Alzheimer's, blah, 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 everything else that comes along with sugar and diabetes. So I hope this video was helpful. I hope it didn't hurt your feelings too much. I hope you're not wondering like, oh my God, I've been eating that for how many years now? Remember, you can change your biochemistry. Today can be a different day. So either throw this stuff away or put it in a place you're never gonna eat it, or feed it to your dogs. But get something healthier in your body for breakfast. It doesn't have to be a protein shake, but get something healthier into your body. Think about it. Many people are scared to eat meat and vegetables for breakfast, but breakfast is just another meal. There's no reason why you can't eat leftovers from dinner for breakfast. That seems a little weird. I kind of struggle with it too myself, but if you don't know what to eat for breakfast, just eat leftovers. So I'll leave this video there. Please feel free to leave any questions, comments, angry comments, disagreements, whatever. I'm open to hear it all. And please share it with a friend who you know may be a cereal, oatmeal, or Greek yogurt addict. And hope you guys have a good day.